If your child shows early signs of autism, they could struggle socially for life and may face challenges living independently as a teen. But it doesn't have to be that way. Have you ever noticed your child avoiding eye contact and getting completely locked onto one object far longer than other kids do? Or those moments when you call their name during play and they don't even flinch, like you're not even in the room? And for a second you wonder, is this just a phase? Or is something else going on? Those long stares, lack of eye contact, and tuning out during play can be early signs of autism. Not alarming, just subtle ways your child's brain experiences the world differently. Noticing them early gives you the chance to help your child feel safe, understood, and connected, before these patterns become harder to support. The truth no one tells parents. Here's something almost every parent feels but rarely admits: the fear of missing something. The fear of waking up one day and realizing you overlooked a sign that might have helped your child earlier. And because of that silent fear, many parents swing between dismissing concerns, "He'll grow out of it," and overthinking everything. Is this normal? The truth nobody tells parents is that autism signs can be incredibly gentle. A child might look perfectly happy, playful, and curious, and still show subtle early traits that just need a bit of guidance. Recognizing these clues doesn't mean something is wrong. It doesn't mean your child is broken or behind. It simply means their brain is wired differently, and different doesn't mean less. What parents really need is not fear, but clarity. And once you understand what these early clues actually look like, you stop panicking and start parenting with confidence. Clue 1. Why your child doesn't respond to their name. Imagine calling your child's name from across the room and nothing. Not a glance, not a turn, just total focus on whatever they're doing. Most parents assume it's selective hearing, stubbornness, or deep concentration. Sometimes it's all of those. But when it happens repeatedly, in quiet moments, in familiar settings, and especially when your child is calm, it can be a meaningful clue. Children on the spectrum often struggle with shifting attention from what they're focused on to social cues like names. It's not that they don't recognize you or don't care. It's simply that their brain doesn't prioritize social alerts the way other kids do. Think of it like trying to get someone's attention while they're wearing noise-canceling headphones. They're not ignoring you. They're just locked into their own channel. Clue 2. The missing gestures no one notices. Gestures are the silent language of early childhood. Long before kids talk, they communicate with pointing, waving, reaching, showing, imitating. Little things that look simple but mean everything. If your child rarely points to something they want, doesn't lift their arms to be picked up, doesn't wave bye-bye, or rarely imitates your actions, that's worth paying attention to. Most parents don't realize how foundational gestures are. They aren't extra. They are the building blocks of communication. A lack of gestures doesn't mean your child can't communicate. It means they're communicating differently. Children on the spectrum often skip these steps because their brain navigates the world through objects, patterns, and consistency rather than shared social interactions. The absence of gestures is not a judgment. It's simply a clue that your child might need communication modeled in a different, more intentional way. But before moving to the third clue, if you found our video a little helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe this channel, because we're always there for mamas. Clue 3. When repetitive behaviors become a pattern. Every child repeats things. That's normal. But when repetition becomes the main theme of your child's play, lining up toys endlessly, fixating on spinning wheels, repeating phrases without context, or sticking strictly to routines, it can be a clue. These behaviors often help children regulate their world. They feel predictable, comforting, safe. The key is not to fear repetitive behavior, but to notice its intensity and frequency. Is your child exploring beyond it? Do they play symbolically? Are they flexible when the routine changes? Repetition itself is not a problem. It becomes a clue when it limits curiosity instead of supporting it. How to deal with these clues based on each sign. So you've seen the clues: the missed name response, the missing gestures, the repetitive routines. Now comes the part every parent worries about. What do I do about it? And here's the good news. You don't need expensive programs, complicated charts, or stressful therapy routines to start helping your child. What works best is simple, gentle, and rooted in everyday parenting moments. Let's break it down in a way that feels doable, not overwhelming. 1. When your child doesn't respond to their name. Instead of calling your child from across the room like you're summoning a cat that has absolutely no intention of cooperating, try this. Walk closer. Sit beside them. Lean into their world instead of pulling them out of it. Place a soft hand on their arm. Wait a second, and say their name gently. The moment they look up, even if it's half a glance, celebrate it with warmth. A big smile, soft eyes, a gentle, "Hi, sweetheart." Do this consistently in low-stress moments, not when you're rushing to leave the house, not when you're frustrated, not when they're already dysregulated. Here's why this works. For autistic children, respond to your name isn't automatic. It's learned. You're not teaching them obedience. You're teaching them connection. You're teaching their brain, when I hear my name, something good happens. That is how responsiveness grows, not through pressure, but through pleasant predictability. 2. When gestures are missing. Pointing, waving, reaching. Think of gestures as the Wi-Fi of communication. You barely notice them when they're working, but everything feels off when they're missing. To support your child, don't force gestures. Model them like you're narrating a silent movie. When you see a plane, point to it with exaggerated excitement. When you leave the room, wave like you're saying goodbye to an airport crowd. When they hand you something, nod with appreciation. When you play, make big expressions, surprised faces, silly faces, playful shrugs. Children don't learn gestures by imitation drills. They learn them because they see them every single day. If pointing doesn't happen yet, start by holding objects up to your own face while smiling. You're teaching your child a simple pattern: object, face, connection. Slowly, their brain starts understanding that gestures aren't random movements. They're shortcuts to communication. And once gestures come, language starts building much faster. 3. When repetitive behaviors take over. Repetitive behaviors are the one thing parents panic about most, and the one thing they actually shouldn't fear. Repetition is not the enemy. It's your child's anchor. If they're lining up cars, let them. Then quietly place your car in the line. If they accept it, great. If they don't, that's fine too. They're not rejecting you. They're protecting order. If they spin wheels, sit beside them and watch. If they repeat phrases, match their tone. If they need routines, offer clear warnings before transitions. The rule is simple. Join first, expand later. Once your child sees that you respect their world, they'll slowly let you introduce new ideas into it. Maybe the car line gets a bridge. Maybe the wheel gets a ramp. Maybe the repeated phrase turns into a little game. You're not trying to stop their comfort behaviors. You're helping them grow around them. The real secret behind all of this. Every one of these steps has the same foundation: connection before correction. Autistic children don't need to be pulled into our world. They need us to step into theirs. When you meet them where they are, when you adjust your pace to theirs, when you stop fixing and start understanding, their brain opens, their confidence grows, their ability to communicate naturally increases, not because you forced change, but because you created safety. That's the whole magic. Why this method works so well. This approach works because it speaks the exact language your child's brain understands. Safety, not pressure, not correction, not act like other kids, just safety. Most parents don't realize this, but autistic children aren't struggling because they're stubborn or disconnected. They're struggling because the world hits them louder, faster, and more intensely than it hits other kids. Lights feel brighter. Sounds feel sharper. Transitions feel bigger. Social cues feel confusing. So when you call their name from across the room, when you say, "Wave bye-bye," when you interrupt a repetitive routine, their brain isn't ignoring you. It's overwhelmed. And overwhelmed brains don't learn. They protect. That's why these strategies work so beautifully. They remove overwhelm from the equation. When you walk closer instead of calling louder, your child doesn't have to process distance, background noise, and sudden demands. When you model gestures instead of forcing them, you turn communication into something gentle, visible, and predictable. When you join their repetitive play instead of stopping it, you show them you're not a threat to their sense of order. You're part of it. Each tiny moment tells their brain, "You're safe with me." And when a child feels safe, their whole nervous system shifts. Their shoulders relax, their eyes soften, their attention opens, their desire to connect increases. Safety unlocks learning. Safety unlocks communication. Safety unlocks flexibility. This is why progress feels sudden. Not because your child finally understood, but because they finally felt comfortable enough to try. And the most beautiful part? You don't need perfection to make this work. You just need presence, warmth, patience, a willingness to meet your child where they are today, not where someone else says they should be. That's why this works. Not because it's a technique, but because it's a relationship. The biggest parent challenge. The hardest part isn't recognizing the clues. It's the emotional journey that follows. The late-night Googling, the scrolling through videos, the doubts, the what-ifs. Parents often feel torn between trusting their instincts and hoping everything will resolve on its own. But the truth is this: early support is not a verdict. it's an advantage. The earlier you understand your child's needs, the easier life becomes for both of you. And regardless of what any professional says or doesn't say, you remain your child's safest place and most important guide.